Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we re-diving into a really complex international issue that's been in the headlines for years. The conflict between the United States and Venezuela. It's a situation filled with tension, and you've probably heard a lot of different things about it. So what's really going on? Why are these two countries constantly at odds? What were the key events that sparked this long-standing disagreement? We're going to break it all down for you, step by step, to make it easy to understand. We'll look at the history, the key players, and what might happen next. Stick around as we unravel this complicated story.
Let's get started.
Ever wondered why the US and Venezuela, once close partners, are now in a constant state of conflict? It's a complex story, but let's break it down. For a long time, the relationship between these two countries was actually pretty good. Venezuela was one of America's most reliable oil suppliers for decades. They were economic partners, trading and working together. But the dynamic started to shift dramatically in 1999 when Hugo Chavez was elected president. Chavez wasn't a fan of American influence in Latin America. He introduced bold socialist policies, nationalized key industries, and became a vocal critic of the United States. He built alliances with countries like Cuba and Iran, which further strained relations with Washington. When Chavez died in 2013, his hand-picked successor Nicolas Maduro took over. Under Maduro, things went from bad to worse. U.S., along with many other Western nations, accused Maduro's government of some pretty serious things. We're talking about election manipulation, widespread corruption, and severe human rights abuses. The situation got so tense that in 2019, the United States officially stopped recognizing Maduro as Venezuela's legitimate president. This was the turning point that plunged the two nations into direct conflict. In response to what it saw as an illegitimate government, the United States unleashed a wave of heavy economic sanctions against Venezuela. These weren't just slaps on the wrist. They were designed to hit the Maduro government where it hurts the most, its wallet. The sanctions targeted Venezuela's lifeline, its oil exports. They also went after high-ranking government officials and financial institutions, aiming to cut them off from the global financial system. The official goal, according to the U.S., was to apply enough pressure to restore democracy, stop what they called illegal activities, and force the government to hold free and fair elections. It was a strategy of maximum pressure. However, the Maduro government and its supporters see it very differently. They call the sanctions a form of economic warfare. They argue that these measures are not just hurting the government, but are devastating the lives of ordinary Venezuelan citizens. They claim the sanctions are the direct cause of the country's humanitarian crisis, leading to critical shortages of food, medicine, and other basic necessities. The impact has been severe, with hyperinflation, collapsing public services, and millions of Venezuelans fleeing the country. This debate over who is truly responsible for the suffering of the Venezuelan people lies at the heart of the conflict. Then the political drama ramped up even more. In early 2019, a young opposition leader named Juan Guaidó made a bold move. Citing the Constitution, he declared himself the interim president of Venezuela, arguing that Maduro's re-election was fraudulent. The United States, along with about 60 other countries, quickly recognized Guaidó as the legitimate leader, throwing their full support behind him. It seemed like a major shift was about to happen. Washington offered Guaidó political and financial backing, hoping he could unite the opposition and oust Maduro. But it didn't play out that way. The Venezuelan military, a crucial player in the country's power structure, remained loyal to Maduro. Despite massive street protests, Guaidó was unable to secure their support. Over time, as his momentum faded and he couldn't deliver on his promises, his public support began to dwindle. Maduro, with the military behind him, and support from allies like Russia and China, managed to hold on to power. This created a bizarre and chaotic political deadlock. You had two men both claiming to be the rightful president, essentially running two parallel governments. This power struggle only deepened the country's instability, making a resolution even more difficult to achieve. The U.S. was left backing a leader with little real power, while Maduro remained firmly in control. So where does that leave things today? The situation is still incredibly complicated. The U.S. continues to use sanctions as its main tool, but their effectiveness is heavily debated. Meanwhile, Venezuela remains in a deep economic and humanitarian crisis, with no clear end in sight. The political standoff persists, and the relationship between the two countries is as frozen as ever. It's a powerful example of how geopolitics, economics, and ideology can collide with devastating consequences for millions of people. So, what's been happening recently? Things have gotten even more tense. The United States rolled out a new wave of measures, including more sanctions, travel bans on certain officials, and freezing assets. It's a clear signal of increasing pressure. On the other side, Venezuela isn't just sitting back. They've been strengthening their relationships with countries like Russia and China, and they've publicly accused the U.S. of imperialism. To show they're serious, they've even been holding military drills. Both nations are flexing their political muscles and sending some very strong messages. But thankfully, it hasn't escalated to a direct military clash. Now, how is the rest of the world reacting to all of this? It's pretty divided, to be honest. On one side, you have countries like Canada, the UK, and several European nations that are largely aligned with the US position. On the other, you have major players like Russia and China, along with Iran and Cuba, who are backing Venezuela. In the middle of it all, organizations like the United Nations are pushing hard for a peaceful resolution. They're calling for dialogue, urging both sides to find a peaceful way forward, and highlighting the need for humanitarian aid to help the Venezuelan people. The last thing anyone wants is another war in Latin America. So, why should someone living thousands of miles away care about this? Well, this conflict has ripple effects across the globe. First, let's talk about oil. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves in the world. Any instability there can send shockwaves through global energy markets and affect the price you pay at the pump. Then there's the human side. The crisis has led to one of the largest migrations in recent history. Millions of Venezuelans have fled their homes, seeking refuge in neighboring countries like Colombia and Peru, and many have made their way to the United States. This puts immense pressure on borders, social services, and economies in the region. It's a major issue of regional security and international politics. What could happen next? Experts are looking at a few possible scenarios. The first, and most hopeful, is a diplomatic solution. This would involve serious talks, maybe with international mediators, leading to new, fair elections that everyone can accept. Another possibility is that the current situation just continues, with ongoing sanctions, economic pressure, and political isolation of Venezuela. A third outcome could be some kind of internal political change within Venezuela, maybe sparked by protests or a shift in leadership. But here's the thing. Nearly every analyst agrees that diplomacy is the best and really the only viable path forward. A war would be catastrophic. It would mean the loss of countless civilian lives, the complete destruction of an already fragile economy, and it would destabilize the entire region for years to come. And that's the full story behind the complex relationship between the USA and Venezuela. It's a situation with a long history and major global implications. What are your thoughts on this? Do you believe diplomacy is the only way to solve this? Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you found this video helpful and learned something new, please give it a like. Subscribe for more content like this, and share it with someone you think should see it. Thanks for watching.